difficulties because I'm doing this on my phone. I'm having internet issues. But anyway, just to go through this quickly, it's only going to be about 3 minutes. This is in regard to the coffee shop murders. I wrote a script about it, and I have a beat sheet of nine. Is one season, 9 episodes, and this is only going to take 3 minutes. I'm going to do different parts of it. So let's get started real quick because this system is not doing too well. It's shaky. So chapter one. So actually, scene one or chapter one. The fluorescent lights in Maggie T's tea shop has been off for 20 minutes, but the place still smelled like fresh ground coffee, cinnamon muffins, and something sweeter. Amy Norton's vanilla body spray mixed with the faint musk of sex. Roman Trexler leaned against the sink in the employee's only bathroom, pants around his ankles, hands gripping Amy's hips as he drove into her from behind. She braced her palms on the mirror, fogging the glass with every breath, her eyes locked on this reflection. 25 years old, ponytail swinging, apron still tied loose, sorry, around her waist, like she's forgotten to take it off after closing. She never forgot anything when it came to Roman. Harder, detective, she whispered, voice husky, playful. You had a rough shift, I can tell. He obliged, always did with Amy. Most women tapped out when he flipped them over and went for the back door. His foolproof exit strategy. That's what he uses to get out of it. He'll violate them. Like this is a notation from me. What he does is that he violates them. Like when he wants to get something from a woman, he just violates them, and he knows that the women don't like it in the back door. If you know what I'm talking about. So instead of that, he'll pull out from the main, you know what, and go into the back door. And that was his way, his exit strategy. That's what he used as an exit strategy, just to get what he want. And then he would they would never call him again. So that's the note on this story. So just to let you know that he's a cold, misguided man or whatever it is. But that's how he does it. Like he'll have sex with them in one part, and then when he pulls out, he goes into the next part, and he knows that it offends them, and they don't bother with him again. Okay. So on this part here, that's his foolproof exit strategy. So the women called him an animal. They'll storm out, never call him again. Clean break, no heavy conversations. But with Amy took everything he gave and asked for seconds. Like she knew how he liked his coffee, black, 2 sugars, splash of oat milk on bad days, right? So he knew he wanted to. She knew that he wanted whipped cream on the side unless he was in the mood. Knew exactly how to arch her back, so he hit that spot that made his vision blur. So Roman's fingers dug into her skin, sweat slid down his temple. 6'2", still carried the Marine build under the detective shield, brown hair shading dark where it was damp. 45 years old and still chasing the high of no strings, no compromise, no promises, no tomorrows. You gonna come for me, baby? Amy teased, pushing back against him, and he groaned, buried himself deep, and let go. For 30 seconds, the world was nothing but heat and release and the sound of her soft laugh when he finally slumped against her. They cleaned up in silence, the comfortable kind, and she handed him a warm towel without asking. He zipped up, splashed water on his face, watched her fix her ponytail in the mirror. You staying overnight, she said, casual, like it didn't matter either. Can't. Early briefing at 1:05. And then she said, liar. And he just didn't say anything after that. So Amy shrugged and smiled anyway. Text me when you want pie. And he kissed the back of her neck, tasted the salt and vanilla. You're too good to me, kid. She locked the front door behind him at 12:07 a.m. He watched her wave through the glass, then turned toward his unmarked Crown Victorian car, the car that cops drive, parked across the street. Queens Village was dead quiet, the way it had been for 30 years. No gunshots, no screams, just crickets and the occasional dog barking 3 blocks over. Roman never heard the back door open after he left. He never saw the gloved hand that clamped over Amy's mouth. He never saw the blade. But sunrise, all 3 women, Amy Norton, Tammy Bronner, Lindsay Leaks, were stacked in the dumpster behind Maggie T's tea shop, like broken dolls, like somebody just killed them and just threw them in the dumpster when they were done with them. See, the whole point of this story is that this cop, okay, He was with this girl, this one girl. He done messed with almost half of the town. He didn't care. He went it after every woman. He got them all, whatever. Right? He was just a guy that just got what he wanted and he left. But he had one special girl out of all of them, and she knew how to handle him because she just ignored him every time he would get nasty with her or get pissed off or he don't want he treats her like she's dirt, and she still comes back asking for seconds. So she's at the top of his list, right? And her name is Amy. So at this point, so after he had sex with her in the bathroom and all type of stuff, the usual stuff. And what my story says is that after all the women that he messed with and he violated, he just done stupid things to them, and they didn't like it or whatever. He kept her because she's the only one that can handle him. Well, anyway, so by sunrise, after all of that, he left her, the coffee shop, and he didn't look back. He saw her waving. He didn't look back. He went in his car, his cop car, and he left. But he didn't see that there was a man standing right behind her in the coffee shop after he left. He put his hand around her mouth, and he had a knife in his hand. Okay, so now we're going to sunrise now, right? All three women that he slept with in that coffee shop, because they all worked there. Amy Norton, Tammy Bronner, Lindsay Leaks were stacked up in the dumpster behind Maggie T's tea shop like broken dolls, right? So throats cut from ear to ear, signs of torture, burns, bruises, fingernails torn. Someone had taken their time. And Roman Trexler, who's the cop that was sleeping with the girl, DNA was inside every single one of them. So that means he did all of them, all the girls that are in the dumpster, right? And of course, he left his little surprise from his lower pants. So all his DNA's in all three of them, right? Okay, so now in the next part, Roman's phone buzzed at 5:42 a.m. He was halfway through a cigarette in his apartment, balcony, staring at the dark skyline, thinking about how Amy's laugh sounded like wind chimes, and the call ID read Captain Starcuzo. So he answered the phone, yes, yeah. So the voice was rough and everything. So Captain Starcuzo said to him, get to Maggie T's now. Starcuzo sounded like he swallowed gravel. And Trexler, bring your badge, you're going to need it. So Roman's stomach dropped. He knew that one. He knew that tone. So he used it himself on grieving families. He was there in 12 minutes. So the alley behind the tea shop crawled with uniforms, yellow tape flapped in the cold December wind, forensic techs in white bunny suits, moving like ghosts around the dumpster. Starcuzo stood off to the side, arms crossed, face the color of ash. He's 55 years old, salt and pepper, crew cut. The man was in gray. It was his captain, so he was like a gray guy, had a gray look. He had gray beard, gray hair, whatever. 3 grown daughters who called him Pop Pop, right? He ran the 105th precinct for 20 years and never had the process a homicide seen until today. So that means that Queens Village, where I'm originally from, I'm speaking about my town, 105th precinct is actually the truth. Starcuzo is actually the captain of the 105th precinct. So I'm writing about my town, okay? But, factor fishing, whatever, but this is the story. Okay, so moving on. So Roman ducked under the tape. The smell hit first. Blood, garbage, early morning frost. Then he saw the bodies. Amy's eyes were still open, staring up at nothing. Her apron was soaked dark red. Tammy and Lindsay lay tangled beneath like someone had tossed them in without care. So Roman's knees buckled. He caught himself on the dumpster rim. Jesus fucking Christ. Starcuzo's hand landed heavy on his shoulder. You knew them? Not a question. Roman couldn't speak. He just nodded. All 3? Another nod. Starcuzo exhaled through his nose. Labs rushing to rape kits. You know what they're going to find. So that's the whole thing. So now let's move on to the next part, and then I'm going to end it quick. So Roman closed his eyes. I was with Amy last night. After closing, I left around midnight. Anyone? And then the Starcuzo said, anyone see you leave? She locked up behind me, front door. That's what he said, right? So Starcuzo, which is the captain of 105th Precinct, glanced toward the precinct boys watching them. We'll talk inside my office, 1 hour. So Roman stayed in the alley long after the captain walked away. He stared at Amy's face until a tech gently closed her eyes. He didn't throw up. Marines don't throw up, but he came close. So now they're back at the 105th precinct now, right, in the squad room. It smelled like burnt coffee and old pizza. Roman sat across from Starcuzo and two detectives he'd worked with for years, Ramirez and O'Donnell. They wouldn't meet his eyes. Starcuzo dropped a file on the desk. 3 dead girls tortured, throats cut, dumped behind the business one of them worked at. And the primary person of interest is the one on my own detectives team who admits to fucking all 3 victims, most recently hours before they died. Ramirez finally looked up. You got alibis for others, Roman? Sorry about that. I dropped my keys. Ramirez finally looked up and he says, you got alibis for all for the others, Roman? I've been with all 3 at different times. Months ago for Tammy and Lindsay and Amy, more regular. So that means he's been fucking all of them, and all of them are dead now. O'Donnell whistled low. Regular enough to leave DNA. Starcuzo leaned forward. Here's what we're going to do. We're not calling AIB yet. We're not calling the borough. And we are sure as hell not calling Boss Lady, Claudia or Rex. Roman's head snapped up. They're out of town. Exactly, Starcuzo said. On a job, high level. Last thing we need is M6 rolling back in here, turning this into a bloodbath before we even know what happened. Roman rubbed his jaw. You think this is tied to the family? I think Queens Village hasn't had a murder since 1994. Now we got 3 in one night, all connected to Maggie T's tea shop, which we both know is under M6 protection. I think someone either wants to send a message or they want to burn you down and take the whole town with it. The silence stretched. Ramirez spoke up. Word on the street, couple outsiders from been sniffling around. Chinese guys in suits, couple Middle Eastern types renting Airbnbs on the edge of town. Nobody knows why. Starcuzo's eyes narrowed. We keep this in-house until we have answers. Trexler, you're on administrative leave, effective immediately. Turn in your shield in peace. Roman didn't argue. He slid his badge across the desk. But as he stood to leave, Starcuzo added quietly, find out who did this, Roman, quietly, because if Claudia finds out her girl Amy got butchered on our watch and we sat on our asses, we're all dead anyway. Roman nodded once. He walked out in the cold morning carrying nothing but guilt, rage, and the ghost of Amy's vanilla scent still on his skin. Somewhere in Queens Village, a killer was already planning the next move, and the clock was ticking before Boss Lady came home. Here's what the shadows whispered back, the public face. Everyone in Queens Village sees kindly old priest at Holy Mary Mother's Church. White hair, soft Irish lip. Even after all these years, always ready with a blessing or a collection plate for the school kids. He presides over baptisms, weddings, funerals. The town loves him because M6 donations keep the church roof patched and the parochial school open. He preaches forgiveness, charity, turning the other cheek. On Sunday, he name drops Claudia gratefully from the pulpit. Thanks to our generous benefactors, and everyone nods, thinking he's talking about anonymous donors, right? So this is a crooked preacher we used to have. His name is Father Flanagan. God rest his soul. But everything, I just want to let you know that everything that I'm reading here is actually the rumors, and these are shit that, to have kind of holding back a little bit, but everything that is exactly what it is. It's just that people don't talk about it in this town anymore. We just act like, honestly, in Queens Village, where I'm from, shit happens. We met it once and then we don't talk about it again. That's how it's always been. And I've been here for 50 years, so I know. So the old fogies that used to live here, a lot of shit happened in this town, but you barely hear anything about it. We barely have any shootings. We barely have any stabbings. If we do, we always say the out Nobody, of course, nobody in Queensville would do something like that. You always find somebody dead and you hear it once and that's it. That's the truth here. So, by me writing shit like this, and when this get out, they're gonna get really pissed off when they see it. So, moving on. So, Flanagan knows things. He knows, right? The money trail that those M6 funds don't just go to stained glass and tuition. The chunk gets laundered clean through the church's charity disbursements. Father Flanagan signs off on every transfer. He sees the books, the real ones, not the ones that the diocese gets. He knows exactly how much of Claudia's blood money keeps the town floating, and lately, withdrawals he didn't authorize. Large ones, routed through the offshore accounts that smell like Mayor Nebel's cologne and Starcuzo's desperation. He's been sitting on proof, forged signatures, backdated receipts. Why? Because if he talks, the whole house of cards falls and the church loses golden goose. Confession boosts sacred seal on the confessional is sacred, right? Because everybody used to go to the church and tell Father Flanagan everything. So Father Flanagan know a lot, right? Okay, so mostly, priests are, we say priests are human, but Father Flanagan has heard Starcuzo unburden himself about creative accounting for the retirement fund. He heard Diana Starcuzo, which honestly, in my time, Father Flanagan was fucking the captain's wife. Okay? I know. It's quite a story. So, I'm just doing town gossip, right? And I'm turning it into a script, but I can say, I'll give you this, because I'm reading this for the first time, right? So I'm going to say this, at 100%, 75% is true, and the other 35 is fiction. I have to mix it up, because if I do the whole thing, it's gonna start some shit in this town, okay? So he's heard Diana Starcuzo, which is the captain's wife, right, cry about catching in the dumpster, right? Because Starcuzo was fucking Tammy, and also Rex and was fucking Tammy too. So the captain was fucking Tammy, and also Roman, who was messing with Amy, and she died. He was also doing her too, but Tammy had all the secrets. Okay, so moving on, because I have to get off of here soon. So anyway, so he heard, this is Father Flanagan now. He's been stealing and laundering money through the church and all that type of stuff. So he's heard that Diana Starcuzo, which is the captain's wife, who was also fucking Father Flanagan, okay, cry about catching her husband with Tammy Bronner in the sacristy, they call it sacristy part of church after hours, right? Okay, so Tammy, as I said, Tammy wasn't only Roman's dessert, he was also Starcuzo's nasty baby, right? Okay, so let's see now. So let's move on to something else. Okay, so Roman waited until full dark. So on December 29th, 2 days after the bodies were found, and Queens Village felt like it was holding its breath. No leads announced, no arrests, just whispers in the diner. That's our little diner down on Springfield Boulevard. We gossip in there. Anytime we hear some shit, we just get little whispers and everything, but once everybody leaves the diner, the conversation closed. It's really crazy over here. Side locks at the grocery, kids pulled inside early. Once there's a murder, everybody goes home early. So he parked 2 blocks from the Holy Mary Mother's Church, walked the rest, collar up, hands in the pocket, no badge on his belt. Starcuzo had the locked in an envelope. The church loomed quiet, stained glass, dark except for the faint glow of the recovery windows, meaning that Starcuzo went to the church and paid Father Flanagan off in the church, giving him money for him to shut the fuck up. So Roman slipped around the back. He knew the layout. Everybody did who grew up there, which I did, because there's a certain way you could get into that church, and you can get in there without getting caught. So everybody knew that there's a certain part of that church, getting into that church, where if you want to just go snatch something from the fridge, or, they have the rectory and you want to snatch some food or something like that, you can easily just go into the church and get it, and they will never catch you. Okay, so everybody who grew up here know that the side door by the sea always left unlocked for late night penitents or drunks needing shelter, right? So he eased it open, smell of incense, candle wax, and old wood. Footsteps echoed upstairs, Father Flanagan locking up for the night. Roman descended the narrow window stairs to the basement. The air down here was colder, damp stone and dust. See, the stuff that I'm describing is that I used to go in there. So I know it used to smell like candles, to smell, have a wooden smell in the basement. So everybody, that's where we used to play bingo prizes and all type of stuff. But it's some crazy shit that used to happen there. Right, we used to have drunks and drug addicts, and we don't have people laying on the street like homeless and shit. They go right into the church. Everybody hide. So that's why the town always looked clean, because all the homeless people hide inside the church and do their shit. I know I shouldn't say it, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, so the air down here was cold, damp stone, stone and dust, single bulb swinging from a cord, stacks of old hymns, broken pews, and cardboard boxes labeled Christmas 2012. Okay. Bingo prizes 2018, a rusty filing cabinet in the far corner, padlock dangling, open like someone forgot to snap it shut, as I remember it. Roman moved quietly. He'd been here before, years ago, helping move donation boxes for drives, but tonight felt different, wrong. You heard the creak above Flanagan coming downstairs. The priest froze halfway on the stairs. He saw Roman in the shadows. Detective Trexler, Flanagan said, voice thin. White hair tousled from sleep. Cassock buttoned wrong. You know the white thing around the neck that the priests wear? He's 60 years old. He's like an older guy, but he's been around and he's done some bad things and he's seen some things and he's been taking money. Flanagan was a dirtbag, but he was a nice guy. But his eyes were sharp, nervous. You shouldn't be down here. So Roman stepped into the light. Neither should 3 dead girls be in a dumpster, Father. But here we are. Flanagan finished descending, acting sarcastic, hands clasped like he was praying already. So Flanagan put his hands together like he was praying because he knew about the girls. He knew all about it, right? I heard terrible, just terrible. Whole town grieving, covering their asses. Roman nodded toward the filing cabinet. Mind if I look? Flanagan moved to block him, subtle, but Roman caught it. The seal of confession is sacred, son. You know that. I'm not here for confessions, Father. I'm here for whatever those girls knew that got them tortured and slaughtered. Flanagan's face paled. They were good girls, Amy especially, always helping with the food drives. Amy was asking questions, Roman said, about missing collection envelopes, about meetings in the basement after hours, foreign men, Chinese, Arab, talking to the mayor. The priest's hands trembled. I don't know anything about it. Bullshit. Roman steps closer. Tammy Bronner came to you scared. Lindsay Leaks too. They overheard things, saw things, and now they're dead. You told them to pray on it, and they didn't get the chance. Flanagan backed up until his heels hit a box. Okay, so that's it. So I'm still working on it. I just wanted to put it out there because there's certain people that are interested in this. So I'm just, I'm doing a script right now and I'm trying to pitch it and try to get it on TV. So as soon as the script is finished and stuff, then I'll be able to put it out there. The reason why you don't see my face because it's 103 degrees in Queens. To be honest, it's hot as hell. I'm sweating. My hair is fuzzy, so I don't look right. I look like I'm a sweaty pig. So that's why you don't see my face. But anyway, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you have a good day. Thanks a lot, y'all.